Welcome to Words About Stuff, a podcast where I talk to awesome people about the stuff they love. You may notice I'm not talking to anyone except myself and you right now. So you're the guest, and I've brought some good news that I didn't use in the other episodes. Every fourth episode will be a solo one to get to the things that I feel like talking about that maybe doesn't match up with whatever guests we're having on. So in the last 3 episodes, I talked with Rick the artist from Rad Studio, Jeff the actor from Dudes on Cinema, and Elise Gambar-Hines from EGH Redaction Copywriting. All 3 of them are brave people hopping on a podcast that didn't exist before their recordings, creating by being. All 3 with very different passions and stories that all share some important themes. The biggest I noticed was community, which I might have just noticed because that's my word for the year. Do you ever do that? Do you think of a word for the year? It seems like a big undertaking. How could I pick one word that will apply for the whole year? But I tried to, this year, just pick it as a knee-jerk reaction. And the word that came up for me was community. Build it, interact with it, be part of it, support it. So maybe that's why I saw the theme for all 3 interviews screaming the word community. With Rick from Rad Studio, we talked about Comic-Cons and online spaces, making them more accepting, hoping that they will be, or they already are. And those spaces are the place that lights people up when they share a game they love, or they're competing, or they're showing off their costumes, right? Community. With Jeff's story, he went to auditions, had roommates, went to classes, a whole community around that, where you finally get to be yourself and be good at what you do, and people recognize that and they see you. With Elise, we talked about what is the right dog for you. And in all 3 stories, there's an element of knowing yourself. Not that you know who you're going to be forever or what you are at your core, but knowing what you love, knowing what you want to do more of. If you don't want to go for 300 walks, you don't get a dog who loves walks, right? When Jeff saw that first play, or when Rick watched however many cartoons and is doodling at home, knowing yourself, knowing you like that, leads you into the community you should be in. So knowing yourself helps you choose the right dog to add to your at-home community. I think that's interesting. And the community of people who help animals, amazing. That's one I want to participate with more. They have a level of empathy and open hearts that is hard for me to understand, because it can be so devastating and so lonely when you are the last line before a kill shelter, when you're the one begging for attention and funding. That community is amazing too. They know themselves and they need help, and we could help. Showing up, knowing yourself, accepting others, and working together. I think that's the magic of it. I think that's the best of us. If you haven't heard those stories yet, go back and listen. But for today, let's hear a few more. Oh, what makes me awesome today? I made the decision to record this yesterday, and I didn't do it. And then I said, I'll record it today, and I was thinking about not doing it. Why? I don't know. I was thinking about not doing it, but I did it anyway. Is it going to be perfect? Is it going to be good? I don't know. You'll have to tell me. What makes you awesome today is subscribing, liking, leaving a comment. If you found any good news out there, I'd love to add it to my little good news vision board for myself. Send me a link, tell me what it's about, some keywords. I'll look it up. Usually we do the speed round now. I could ask myself some speed round questions. Something you loved as a child but you don't like now, or vice versa. The main thing that I can think of is that I didn't like tomatoes then and I don't like tomatoes now. So that does not answer the question. For me, it's the texture of tomatoes. That's disgusting. You bite them and bleh. Ketchup is delicious though. I know that I liked escargot when I was little and didn't know what it was. I would order it at restaurants and then someone told me what it was and then I didn't like it anymore. I don't think I've tried it since. What's a word you often misspell? Okay, I think probably inconceivable. Privilege. Don't think I've ever gotten that one right. And ridiculous. I was pretty sure there was an E at the start there. Ridiculous? Nope. Those are not how you spell those words. I've seen them probably a trillion times. I just at some point decided they were spelled differently, and that is how I spell them still. And autocorrect is helpful, except I don't really know I spelled it wrong when it gets autocorrected. Little red underline, a little more helpful because it has me actually look at my mistake and then fix it. But those three just stick around. And I think about that every time I do it. I write privilege, and I say, wrong again. I try to guess what it is. There's an E, there's an I. English is crazy, so whenever people make fun of people for spelling things wrong, English doesn't make any sense. And if you're hearing words, you don't know how to spell them, probably. And if you're reading words, you likely don't know how to say them. So we don't need to make fun of anybody for anything. Maybe they read too much and they don't hear enough, or they hear more than they read. Then that's fine. What is something you intentionally aren't doing or refuse to do? I am trying not to buy anything on Amazon. I am trying not to overthink things. Let's go. Try not to micromanage things. Yeah. Why am I not buying on Amazon? Because Amazon is bad. Okay, that's too simplistic. Amazon does not treat its workers fairly. It does not like unions. It has run a lot of mom and pop or otherwise stores out of business. And to top it all off, they're not even good anymore, right? The way that we started to love Amazon was it's fast and you get what you want. Anything is available and it is decent quality, right? And it costs less. I can look up a shower head, right? I look it up. There's 1,000 options. I can sort them fairly easily. I pick the one I want. It's a lower price than if I went to like a boutique store, and it gets to me the next day and it works. That was the premise of Amazon at the time. Now, half of the stuff is fake. Half of the stuff is falling apart when you get it. Or it's not quite what was in the picture, or there's 3,000 listings that all use the same picture. My decision fatigue overwhelm is spiked horribly on the website. You used to be able to sort by reviews, and then those are all influenced or botted, it feels like to me. Maybe they're not, but the whole thing, it doesn't even do the thing I liked about it anymore, and I didn't like the other things ever. So that, there's something else I was thinking about related to that. Oh, Netflix. We had Netflix for so long. We had it when it was the DVDs. Like you'd try to watch True Blood and you'd get like the first 2 DVDs of the season, and then you'd send them back when you're done watching them and you get the next 2 DVDs. I don't think I ever finished True Blood. But you could watch so many things. The algorithm was so great, it would suggest stuff to me that I actually wanted to watch. Then it became only online, which was fine because they still had a big selection and they still had cool new shows they were putting out. And now it's like $20 a month or something. It used to be like $7. And then it was, if you have too many devices, whoops, we upped your price. We didn't tell you, but you logged onto an extra device at the same time, so now you pay more. You had to fight about that. Then all the shows stopped being on Netflix because other brands made streaming services, so they took their shows away from Netflix. Netflix stopped producing new shows, or they only made 2 seasons of each one, or whatever happened. And I'm supposed to pay $20 a month for something that doesn't do the original thing I wanted it for. I wanted it for watching shows and movies that I wanted to watch. Now they're not there, or they got taken off, or why would I be paying more for a thing I don't want, right? And there's capitalism in there, but I'm not shopping on Amazon as much as I can. We're not perfect. Sometimes I'm trying to think the last thing we got on there. I think it was like traction rugs for our old dog. We tried to find them at other stores, and sometimes you have to do the order, or you choose to do the order because other things are too hard and you have to focus your energy. So with that in mind, focusing our energy, I made a bunch of segments for this podcast, right? So I give you a little peek at some of the segments we did use. You saw those. We used compliments only and curmudgeon corner. There's a few more. One is called quotes to live by. I don't think I used that one yet. And it's silly quotes. If we believe those quotes or whatnot. Advice no one asked for. I'm looking forward to using that one. I have to organize this one, but it's called a mild case of consequences. It's when you do something and something dumb happens. A very specific untitled goose game. I forget what that was. A segment called What Really Grinds My Gears. I think that's important. And the big question. The only note I put next to that is, do aliens exist? So I'm going to keep on making up silly segments and maybe using them once in a while. But this one, the one that I wanted to talk about today, is called Good News, Everyone.
Good news, everyone!
There's a lot of bad news. It is all very important. It is all devastating. I don't think we should turn away from any of that, but at the same time, and try to use and instead of but. It is all devastating and horrible and true and important, and I sometimes need to look at good news in between. I think that's also important. There are many bad people doing bad things, or they wouldn't think of themselves as bad people. There are many people doing bad things, but there's a lot more doing really cool stuff. And I'd like them to get a few seconds of time out here, and I'd like to give them some of my attention. So these are stories I've seen that have come across my feed randomly, and I've screenshotted them, and I put them all in one place, and I said, my good news things. When everything feels too terrible, I can look at these little stories and feel better. We're going to start with one that I thought was super cool, but it turned out not to be entirely the way it was presented. So a little bit of media literacy here. On my feed of wherever I saw this, it said that in Sweden, let's learn how to say this word. How can it be 34 seconds long if I just want to know how to say it?
Södertälje.
Södertälje. In Södertälje, Sweden, in 2022, when it came across my feed, it said that Södertälje, Sweden, had a program where crows were being trained to pick up garbage. And it turns out that wasn't entirely true. A startup company presented a pilot project in 2022 to Södertälje, Sweden, but the municipality did not proceed with the work. So the idea was these trash cans where if you put in garbage, you get a little crow treat. The crows would be incentivized to pick up the garbage, put it in the garbage, get their little treat. That was the idea. I guess they didn't do it. I was hoping they did it. Because here, Södertälje, a city in Sweden, trained wild crows to pick up cigarette butts. That's the claim. That's what I saw on my feed. False. This is Snopes, by the way. According to the municipality, the startup company Corvid Cleaning once presented the project as a pilot during Science Week in 2022, but the city did not proceed with the work. Notably, the falconers of an historic theme park in France have reportedly used this method to keep the park clean of cigarette butts. So let's see. Because that's cool too. So crows are cool in general. Using crows to help clean up after us could be fun. The falconers. Oh, AI overview. Whoops. Okay, what is kpbs.org? Reuters, all right. Let's see if this one is true. 2018. They trained 6 rooks to pick up cigarette butts and other rubbish dropped by visitors in return for food. Christophe Gaborit the head of falconry at Puy de Faux Park in western France, hand-reared the 6 rooks and trained them to collect garbage by offering a treat for each piece of rubbish collected. Rooks are unfairly maligned, classed as a nuisance, but these birds will perform an eco-friendly deed and restore their image. So, it's true that birds can be trained to pick up garbage. It's not true that there are garbage cans that can help crows do that. That said, make friends with your local crows. They're very cool. Next one was about colors. I don't know if this is good news, but it's cool news in my opinion. So, you could follow Be Smart. This page. They're from PBS. This video seemed cool. I don't know much else about them. And this video, I'll link it in the description, but it talks about how blue does not exist frequently in nature. The color blue on an animal. There are some butterflies that have it, but not many animals have blue. And it's because of how human eyes see the color blue. There's one way to see it when it's a pigment, and that's very hard for nature to produce. There's another way to see it where it's a structure. So when you see blue, often on animals, like this butterfly, the structure of the wing reflects back blue light, but not because the surface is blue. You can watch the video for a full explanation. It is very cool. You should watch it. But the structure makes it blue rather than the pigment being blue. I thought that was so awesome. Science is awesome. Okay, the next one. I was very excited about this one. Sorry if you don't like to look at worms. Okay, warning, if you don't like to look at worms or super worms, do the audio only. I got really excited because polystyrene is a problem. We make it and then can it break down? The issue with polystyrene is it takes a long time for it to decompose. The Colgate University says it takes 500 years to decompose. These also say 500 years. It's hard to trust things now because there's so much AI. I mean, there seems to be a consensus. Other people say it does not decompose. I think we're probably into semantics about what decompose means, and that's okay. But the issue is, once you've made it, hard to get rid of it. Ends up in a landfill, piles up, terrible. So look, superworms eat and survive on polystyrene, and I thought too good to be true. Right? I thought about that, so I read the whole thing. And I'll read parts of it to you that are important. Identifying the gut microbes in plastic-munching beetle larvae illuminates bacteria that could help degrade plastic waste. So do we need to have 8,000 superworms eating polystyrene all the time? Hopefully not. Maybe we can identify the microbes and we could use that to break it down. We could also stop making it. But this is the good news section. So Christian Rink's laboratory, there's a startlingly loud crunching noise while they chew on the polystyrene. They had a study where they had 3 separate groups, 135 creatures in 3 groups. One was fed only wheat bran, another fed only soft polystyrene, and the third was given nothing. So, science. All the worms were monitored for cannibalism. And members of the starved group were isolated from one another. The bran-fed larvae were significantly healthier than their plastic-fed or starved counterparts. Cool, right? More than doubling their weight over the 3 weeks that they were monitored. After that, some of the worms from each group were set aside to grow into beetles. 9 out of 10 bran-fed worms successfully grew into beetles and maintained the most diverse gut microbiome of all 3 groups. The plastic-fed larvae made less impressive gains, but they still put on more weight than the starved worms, and 2/3 of them grew into beetles. So it's not the best food for them to eat, but they can extract some energy from the material, and they don't just die eating it. There's a symbiotic relationship between the superworm and its gut bacteria. They're hoping to characterize all the genes in the digestive microbiome and use that information to eat hard-to-degrade plastics. That's what we're hoping for. Ugh, don't even look at that one. Yes, they are not suggesting to put superworms into landfills. That's not it. We're trying to find what about them means they can extract energy from this material. And what can we use it for? Getting closer. Humans create plastic and polystyrene. Humans find a way to get rid of it. Hopefully. At least these humans are trying. Next one that popped across my feed that made me happy was Patti Gonia, nature's warrior queen. So Patti is the drag superstar and environmental activist, standing up to fascism, getting creative, finding joy in nature. I mean, what more do you want? So this article is by the Revelator, Environmental Truth and Justice. They're going to have a bias toward being environmentalists, and that's great. This was done by Gabrielle Faust in 2025. So you can read the whole article. I'll link it in the notes as well. But fabulous. Someone out here being unapologetically themselves and saving the environment. Amazing. Patti Gonia, ladies and gentlemen. Patti Gonia, everybody. She has an international touring schedule and brings a team of environmentally focused drag queens to venues around the United States. Amazing. We can build communities that fly in the face of everything that is happening. This next one is a scientist that developed a soap that could help fight skin cancer. And the scientist is 14 years old. And no matter how young or old they are, I think that's a really cool study. His name is Megachile. Let's learn how to say that. Megachile? I think I said it right. What?
Beckley?
That says Beckley. I don't think that's right. All right. Beckley. This is with his 3M mentor, Deborah Isabel. Create a prototype soap to treat melanoma, which is skin cancer. His goal is to create soap that could treat skin cancer and make it affordable for everyone who needs it. So not only scientific, also looking out for the people. He won the grand prize in 3M's Young Scientist Challenge, competition encouraging kids to think of unique ways to solve everyday problems. Everyone might benefit from thinking that way. That would be awesome, but helping kids start to learn that is also great. He was inspired by his childhood in Ethiopia before moving to the United States at the age of 4. The soap delivers cancer-fighting drugs via lipid nanoparticles, which work to activate the body's immune cells to fend off cancer. He says, I've always been really passionate about science and how things work. Growing up in Ethiopia, people were always getting hit by the hot sun working outside. I didn't think much of it when I was really little, but as I grew up, I realized how big of an issue skin cancer really is, not only in Ethiopia, but everywhere around the world. And the average price of skin cancer treatment globally is $40,000. That's a lot. It's treatable and it does have cures, but it costs a lot. So he's trying to make a more affordable solution. Amazing. So the soap itself, right? MTS, melanoma treating soap, a compound-based bar of soap, and it's charged with different cancer-fighting chemicals. The main one being this agent called imidazoquinoline. It's quite a mouthful. You said it. But it's this drug that's commonly used for different antifungals and acne treatments, and recently has been looked into in the field of skin cancer. I realized this was a viable option for topical applications like soap. Using that drug, as well as other components, like a nanolipid-based particle transporter that delivered the drug through the skin, was actually a really effective solution for some cancer. The color of the soap is a bit of a dark type of white and has a little bit of bumpy texture to it, which could be a good exfoliant. It does have a strong, potent medicine smell to it, but of course it isn't the worst smelling thing. And in terms of how it feels, it does feel a little bit stickier because it has that lipid-based nanoparticle. And the whole point of it is that once you wash off the soap, the medicinal part will stay on your skin. Of course, I try not to use too much of it because I do not have skin cancer. You can read the article for how the testing went and how they determined that this would work. Amazing job. This one, I'm going to read with you now because I just read the headline, as we often do, and I thought it was funny. New Lucifer bee with devil-like horns found in Australia. Shout out to Australia, always delivering the entertainment. This was November 2025. Lana Lamb wrote this article in Sydney. This is it. What's its name? We'll get there. So Australian scientists discovered a new native bee species with tiny horns, and they gave it a devilish name. I said Megachile Lucifer. Maybe Maybe this is something we'll learn how to say this too. How to say Megachile? Let's find out. Got an ad. Okay, let's see. Come on now. A whole minute? Can't just tell me how to say it? Did he say it? Didn't hear anything, man.
Megachile.
Oh, Megachile. Okay, well, at 49 seconds, someone said Megachile. Megachile Lucifer, or I will call them Megachile Lucifer, observing rare wildflowers that only grow in the Bremer Ranges of Western Australia's Goldfields region. I don't know where that is. Shout out to them. Highly distinctive and prominent horns, only on the female bee, and may be a defense mechanism. Dr. Kit Prendergast from Curtin University. That's a name. Love it. Inspired to use the name Lucifer as she was watching the Netflix show. We just talked about Netflix. She was watching the Netflix show of the same name at that time. Oh, the show Lucifer? Yeah, I didn't watch that one. Wonder if it's good. This is the first new member of this bee group in 20 years. And Lucifer does mean light bringer in Latin. So it's a reference to shining a light on the need for better conservation of native bee species and greater understanding of how endangered plants are pollinated. They're looking to formally protect the area where the bees live, where Megachile Lucifer lives, and there's an endangered flower that this bee pollinates. So scientists out here looking at bees, discovering a new bee. There's new stuff to look at all over this place. All right, next up. I saw this on my feed. I thought it was cool, and I looked it up, and it turns out it is true. Ireland makes a program offering basic income for artists, permanent. So first of all, basic income for artists, amazing. Basic income, let's go. You don't have to be an artist, in my opinion, but fine. The fact they're making it permanent means they tried it out, and it succeeded, so I'm excited to find out. After a successful 3-year pilot, the country will continue to provide 2,000 artists with $1,500 per month. This was October 2025. The author was Ella Feldman. This is Smithsonian Magazine. Let's see. Open air art gallery at Dublin's Merrion Square in 2021. Those look like awesome art. So the question is, should a country financially support its artists? Yeah, in my opinion. Well, let's find out. It's pretty huge, Dublin-based artist Eleanor O'Donovan said. As it happened, it's been transformative for my work and for my well-being in general. Under the program, 2,000 selected artists received $1,500 a month, no strings attached. They were selected for their application process, so I'm assuming they showed off their art, and it allows up to 200 additional artists to receive income if more funding becomes available. They thought about starting this during the pandemic. Cultural institutions were forced to shut down. Worrying about putting bread on the table really impacts artists' creative juices, giving them space to work. I mean, I'm all for this for artists, also everyone. Maybe everyone would benefit from not having to worry about putting bread on the table. But let's start with artists. Let's start wherever we need to start, right? In recent years, some proponents of basic income have focused their efforts on providing regular financial support to artists who can spend months or years working on unpaid creative projects. In New York, a private organization called Creatives Rebuild New York supported 2,400 creatives with $1,000 a month for 3 years following the pandemic. Ireland's program stands out. It's government-funded and permanent. This scheme is the envy of the world. That's an amazing start to a sentence. A tremendous achievement for Ireland and must be made future-proof and sustainable. It cost Ireland more than $100 million, but CBC Radio reports an external consulting group called Alma Economics found that the program also boosted engagement with the arts and offset some of the costs through tax generation and reduction in welfare payments. From a financial point of view, it's hugely beneficial, O'Donovan told CBC Radio. But beyond that, I think there's something intangible that the arts offer to a culture and society. It's hard to measure. I think it's still extremely valuable. Either way, I'm for it. Next, we'll do the robot fish. This headline is questionable, but yes, 3D robot fish Gillbert loves sucking plastic. There is a student named Eleanor McIntosh, and they designed a 3D robot fish that she named Gillbert, and it vacuums microplastics from waterways. Here's sweet Gillbert. They look like a plastic fish with filtering capabilities. For anyone out there who does 3D printing, it is an open source, free to download. You can see the close-up here. That has a fine mesh with a series of gills. It sieves out 2mm particles and keeps them within the fish's body as long as it's in the water. Pollution-fighting robots. Exactly what we need. This reminds me of I worked for someone who interacted with them. I can't remember, but it's called Mr. Trash Wheel. Let's take a look at Mr. Trash Wheel. If you've never heard of him, here he is. There's a whole Trash Wheel family. I think there's Mrs. Trash Wheel, Professor Trash Wheel, and every time there's trash, it goes through Mr. Trash Wheel, he takes it out of the water. You want to see how it works? It's pretty cool. It's semi-autonomous, a trash interceptor put at the end of a river so that the water or the trash has to go through, because a lot of trash stays on the top, right? The biggest time Mr. Trash Wheel has to do a lot of work is when there's a storm. Trash is put down into the river. They can also stop oil slicks with these booms out here in front of it. So this is how it works. You funnel the trash onto a conveyor belt. Step 2, they rake and convey. So there's a spinning rake that pushes the trash up onto a conveyor belt. Step 3, 14-foot water wheel. That's what powers his rakes and his conveyor. If there's not enough water current to power the wheel, then solar panels take over to keep it moving. And step 4, up the conveyor belt into a dumpster. When the dumpster is filled up, it's towed away and replaced with an empty dumpster. Ideally, everything Mr. Trash Wheel picks up gets recycled. But sometimes that can't happen. Sometimes we have to do what we can. Pulling a bunch of trash out of the water before it gets to the lake or the ocean is a win. And these are the people who started Mr. Trash Wheel. And before they put the googly eyes on it, it was not as popular. I don't know if you can believe it, but when you put googly eyes on something, people tend to rally around it. It's very cool. Follow Mr. Trash Wheel on socials. I know they have an Instagram. And that's like a big problem, right? Ocean, plastic, all these things, a big, terrible problem. And a scientific solution. But then you pop some googly eyes on it. People up there in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, they know what's up. Next up is Joseph Ducreux. Let's find out how to say that. Oh, he's got his own how to pronounce.
Joseph Ducreux.
Joseph Ducreux. Joseph Ducreux. He was a French noble, portrait painter, pastelist, miniaturist, and engraver. I need to know what a pastelist is. Oh, potentially art medium consisting of pastels. Guess I could have guessed that. He was a successful portraitist at the court of Louis XVI, and he resumed his career at the conclusion of the French Revolution. French Revolution. An interesting point in history. The reason I bring him up, he painted himself being strange, and we love that for him. Pointing, yawning, coming around the corner with a little shh, right? Strange. Here's him going, How many hours do you think he spent painting himself being goofy? I love that. More of that, please. Have you heard of the Uncensored library? It is the digital home of press freedom, and it is on Minecraft. It's a Minecraft server, and it was released by Reporters Without Borders, created by Blockwork, DDB Berlin, and Monks. They're circumventing censorship in countries that don't have freedom of the press. If you don't have freedom of the press, you might have access to Minecraft, and you might be able to go to the Uncensored library. And I think that's awesome. Check them out. The intersection of gaming and freedom of the press. Do you know James Harrison's story? He's also known as the man with the golden arm. And some people credit him with saving at least 2 million babies because he donated blood for 60 years, over 1,100 times in his life. And he had very special blood. There's an issue with, now I'm not a doctor, but Rh compatibility between mothers and babies. So if mother has O negative blood and the baby has O positive blood, the mother can create antibodies that fight the baby. And that might be fine during that pregnancy, but in the next one, if their new fetus is positive again, their body can attack and kill the baby. So They found something in James's blood that became the foundation of Rogam, which is a drug they now give to pregnant women to help stop the mother's body from attacking the baby. He had a precious antibody in his blood, and the medication they made was called Anti-D. He's Australian, and he actually started donating blood because when he was 14 years old, he had major chest surgery, and he depended on the blood of strangers to save his life. After that, he decided he was going to donate when he got old enough, and he did. And a decade after he began donating, it was found that his blood contained an important antibody, and he donated a long time. His daughter required the anti-D injections to prevent rhesus disease. It previously caused fatal complications during pregnancy, so his own daughter was saved by the medication his blood helped create. It was very cool. So if you've ever thought about donating blood, it's a good idea. That might be a sponsor on an upcoming video. And he did say, I hope someone breaks my record 1,100 times. Get out there. And last but not least, Pippi Longstocking. Pippi Langstrom. I think I was a bit too young to completely latch on to Pippi Longstocking. I don't have very many memories of her other than she had long braids and red hair. But some people I knew really liked her. It kind of reminds me of like Rin Tin Tin. Like I knew of them, but they weren't on TV for me, so I wouldn't see them. I think I had a Pippi Longstocking book. I just don't remember. But the story of Pippi Longstocking is very interesting. Thanks to whoever shared this that I saw and saved. But the writer of Pippi Longstocking was named Astrid Lindgren. And it turns out she worked with Sweden's Postal Control Center as part of the country's intelligence operation. Her assignment was to steam open private military letters crossing into Sweden's borders. She would read them, record sensitive information, seal them back up, and it was terrible work. I can't imagine she'd enjoyed all of that, reading all the mail of strangers, but some of the letters were from Nazis, and they told the truth about what was happening in Nazi-occupied Europe. So in 1941, years before civilians knew about concentration camps, Lindgren wrote in her diary about what she discovered in one of those letters. 1,000 Jews a day are being forcibly transported to Poland in the most shocking conditions. It is apparently Hitler's intention to make Poland into one big ghetto where the poor Jews are to perish from hunger and squalor. She knew what that meant. So Astrid Lindgren knew that other people didn't know this, right? If the newspaper isn't publishing it, you can close your eyes to it. She started telling her daughter a bedtime story about Pippi Longstocking. For those of you who don't know, Pippi Longstocking is very strong. She can lift tall buildings with a single bound. She makes fun of adults who are being unreasonable. She doesn't follow the rules just because they're rules. She follows them if they make sense to her, and they make sense to her if they're kind. A famous quote from Pippi Longstocking is, "If you are very strong, you must also be very kind." So she stands up to bullies. She helps horses. Somebody who is strong, the strongest person in the world, but they help others. So that's my short list of good news. There's a lot of it out there if you take a look. And I think we'll close today with a little video from Mr. Rogers.
You know, my mother used to say, a long time ago, whenever there would be any really catastrophe that was in the movies or on the air, she would say, always look for the helpers. There will always be helpers, you know, even just on the sidelines. That's why I think that if news programs could make a conscious effort of showing rescue teams, of showing medical people, anybody who is coming into a place where there's a tragedy, to be sure that they include that. Because if you look for the helpers, you'll know that there's hope.